The footage on your screen, the picture you're looking at right there, was shot by one of our producers last week. We were out in California all week, in Los Angeles, supposedly one of the richest cities in the world, and in some ways it is. But the video you're watching shows something else. California's poor, meandering, trash-filled streets right in the middle of the city, right downtown, block after block. Homeless encampments along the sidewalks, blanketing downtown L.A. The footage you're watching starts at 5th Street and San Pedro and goes west. Again, block after block, tent after tent. This is how the poor spent Easter Sunday in California. They weren't clustered along a single road either. It wasn't just like Skid Row. It was like many Skid Rows. We drove down 3 completely different blocks, and the encampments just continued. Looks like Tegucigalpa or Port-au-Prince, but it's not. It's America's second largest city. The encampments begin just 2 blocks away from Little Tokyo, one of LA's major tourist destinations. Nearby apartments rent for $3,500 a month.
3/4 of the homeless are sleeping in vehicles or in tents or on the street. Officials blame in part the cost of housing, which is something experts say California has been painfully negligent in building. Today in LA County, there are about 500,000 rental units short of the market need. A resident here needs to make $48 an hour to pay the median rent.
The people are literally living in RVs, miles of RVs parked along the streets, and as you're watching here, in tents. Why wouldn't local leaders want to slow or stop the flow of new arrivals to get prices under control, to opening up new housing? They're doing the opposite. LA is a sanctuary city and a sanctuary state.
One of the challenges that Los Angeles has is that we are the least affordable housing market in America. That is a very large number of people who are very close to the edge at any given time, and as rents move faster than incomes, many people are falling into homelessness on a regular basis.
LA County spent $300 million last year on shelters and services, yet it's not enough. On a daily basis, 17 more residents become homeless compared to those who find homes.
Karen Hicks has been in Los Angeles for a long time. Her family has run a business there for more than 100 years. And they say the city is becoming unlivable. Karen Hicks joins us tonight. Karen, thanks very much for coming on tonight. We're going to put, as we speak, pictures on the screen, I think, that you took from around your business of what it actually looks like. So your family has a business basically in downtown Los Angeles?
Yes. It's been in the same location for over 102 years. And yes, these are our pictures of what is going on right around our neighborhood. So
we're seeing, I mean, some of these pictures are almost too disgusting to put on the screen, but we have a number of them of RVs.
Yes.
People are living in those full time?
Yes, people are living in them full time. You will notice there is raw sewage that is coming out. This raw sewage, it ends up in one place, in our gutters, which goes down to our oceans. It's more than an environmental crisis. It is a health crisis down in this area. I have reached out to our councilperson, Councilman Price. I've reached out to Mayor Garcetti, and as of today, you know, they have not contacted me.
Now, we got in contact with you because you copied us on an email to lawmakers in your city. It just happened. I just saw it in the inbox and was so shocked by these pictures, and you were nice enough to come on and tell us. What does it say about your lawmakers that they don't even respond to you?
You know, it's so disheartening to know that, you know, we're kind of at the bottom of the totem pole. We have a very good relationship with our senior lead officer in our area. And he is the only one, if anything positive does happen, it's only because of him personally. My calls to the city they go unanswered, or it goes from one
to the other. I mean, so Garcetti, your mayor, lives there, and the city is falling apart. And as you're again on the screen, raw sewage in the street.
Yes.
I mean, what's their explanation for this?
Well, I would love to hear it, but like I said, they will not contact me, and you know, I would love to have a discussion about, you have invited them here. to live on our streets and our sidewalks by disregarding the laws that are actually in place and not letting our law enforcement actually enforce these laws. So now you need to deal with what this has brought. That's what I would love to say to them, but I haven't had the opportunity, except right now.
So your family's been there for over 100 years providing jobs and paying
Yes.
taxes. You're in for the long haul.
Absolutely.
You own all this
Yes.
infrastructure in the middle of Los Angeles, and yet
Yes.
you're the one they're ignoring, and they're catering to people who aren't even from there, who are relieving themselves in the streets. I mean, how insulted do you
Yes.
feel?
Our voice is not heard, extremely. And I think when I sent that email, I was at the end of our rope.
Yeah.
And angry.
You have every reason to be angry, and I hope that you will come back with an update on this. If they don't listen to you, let's get louder, because this is totally on it. This is when civilization collapses.
This trash that has been piling up in downtown Los Angeles, resulting in typhus and so on. The cause of it appears to be the tremendous increase in homelessness that's been reported widely across California. All of my friends and neighbors are dealing with issues with it. I'm dealing with it in my community, which is an affluent community. They're dealing with it in downtown Los Angeles. And we've got a second problem. We have a big release of prison populations. The Supreme Court has ordered California to release prisoners because we don't have proper housing for them. So California is again and again demonstrating the failure to provide the most basic governmental needs for its people.
But LA is not the only once great California city that is crumbling. San Francisco may have fallen even further. The nonprofit organization Open the Books has created a simple map. The map shows every instance, it's on the screen now, in the past 8 years where human waste has been reported on the sidewalks of San Francisco. At least we assume this is San Francisco. There's so much brown you can't even see the map. It's easy to laugh about this, and we do sometimes, but imagine what it would be like if you were from San Francisco. Imagine if you could remember when San Francisco was still a great city, livable, a place where ordinary people live, not just tech plutocrats. Imagine if you watched your own home sink beneath piles of garbage and used needles and human waste. San Francisco has more billionaires per capita than any city in the world. The reason? Well, nearby Silicon Valley. It's generated unprecedented wealth. There were several multi-billion-dollar IPOs this year alone. But beneath this wealth is extreme inequality. The city of San Francisco has thousands of homeless people living on the sidewalks. If you've been there recently, you know that that's true. The city has a flourishing drug scene. Some of neighborhoods have open-air heroin markets in broad daylight. Cops do nothing about them. So despite its booming economy, San Francisco has lost its grip on its homeless problem and is struggling to provide basic services. This was the scene outside our hotel in San Francisco. A homeless man, hungry for dinner, digging through a trash can for food. The epicenter of homelessness in San Francisco is the Tenderloin neighborhood. It's just blocks from tourist attractions like Union Square and major thoroughfares like Market Street. In the Tenderloin, we saw junkies shooting up in broad daylight and homeless people wielding makeshift knives. One threatened to stab our camera crew because we were filming there. In this video, a mother and daughter wait for a public bus standing just feet from a drug-addled man who's too intoxicated to put on his own coat. The city has about 470 intravenous drug users per square mile. One reason so many homeless congregate in the area is a place called Glide Memorial Church. Like the city around it, Glide is political and post-Christian. Back in the 60s, it removed its crosses to be more welcoming. This man was out cold on a sidewalk just blocks from the church. Next to him, a partially eaten birthday cake, syringes that the city passes out, and water packets that help addicts cook heroin on the street. How does a city this rich get so dirty? One reason, San Francisco no longer enforces quality of life citations, like sleeping on the sidewalk or public urination. The city used to use citations as leverage to get people off the streets. But in 2016, a liberal judge called Christopher Hite flushed all 64,000 outstanding warrants for quality of life crimes. Every one. From 2011 to 2015. But it's not just quality of life crimes. San Francisco now finds it difficult to enforce any law.
There it goes, you just broke in.
Smash and grab car thefts are everywhere, a huge problem in San Francisco, but cops make arrests in fewer than 2% of them. Police stationed in the Tenderloin complain that it's impossible to get convictions against drug dealers, so they don't even try to enforce the law. One officer told the San Francisco Chronicle that the police now allow criminals to operate, even when cops know who they are and what they're up to. One consequence of not enforcing those laws, rampant drug abuse well beyond the Tenderloin. We videotaped this man shooting up heroin right in front of City Hall in broad daylight. Here's a picture of two people shooting up at Mission Dolores Park. A 3-bedroom row house right next to these junkies currently sells for $6 million. Former Mayor Mark Farrell told local media that even he had stepped on a used needle once at the Civic Center Plaza, right near downtown. But nothing's changing. Despite the reports and the money that San Francisco spends on cleaning its streets, we found syringes and human feces all over the city. OpenTheBooks.com has assembled every case of hypodermic needles found in the streets of San Francisco since 2011. Take a look at that. Believe it or not, things can get even worse. In 2018, there were 9,520 reported needles on the street. That's used needles on the street. The number is more than double the number from 2016 and 33 times as many as were reported in 2011. San Francisco is literally becoming unlivable by the day, even by the hour. Do California lawmakers care? No, they really don't. Where's Nancy Pelosi in this? She lives in Pacific Heights, right in the middle of San Francisco. You wouldn't know it. She never mentions any of these things. This neighborhood in East Palo Alto, California, is so close to Facebook's global headquarters that Mark Zuckerberg could ride his bike to it. Tech billionaires like Sergey Brin and Tim Cook live within 10 miles. But the people who live on Bay Road in East Palo Alto aren't quite as fortunate as their Silicon Valley neighbors. There's no place in America that better illustrates the massive inequality caused by our booming tech sector. On any given night, more than 100,000 people are homeless in the state of California. Nearly 8 of 10 of them live on the streets. But there's homelessness in poorer areas, too. Consider Stockton. That's a city in California's Central Valley. The housing downturn hit Stockton so hard that the city filed for municipal bankruptcy in 2012. Current rent prices in some neighborhoods are as low as $680 a month. And yet our investigation found homeless people all over Stockton, under overpasses, next to highways, along rivers and canals, near downtown on the outskirts of town. 50 miles north in Sacramento, the state capital, things are just as bad, maybe worse. Every public place we visited in Sacramento had homeless people. A bike path along the American River downtown lined with tents. In one neighborhood just north of the city center, homeless Californians camp out near soup kitchens. Encampments on North B Street go on for a mile. What's striking about the homelessness in Sacramento is how prominent it is. It would be impossible to visit the city and not see it. There were people living at the Cesar Chavez Plaza right in the heart of downtown. This photo shows a multi-tent encampment literally at City Hall. The public library essentially functions as a day shelter. It's filled with homeless people charging their phones, using computers, bathing in the bathroom. People were even living on the grounds of the state capitol building when we visited. One issue is that the city doesn't have enough shelter space. Local officials are doing a terrible job of finding places to put people. The last city-run homeless shelter in Sacramento closed in April. Now the shelter is going to be used as a marijuana cultivation and distribution center, of course. California tent cities should humiliate the state leaders. They don't seem humiliated.
Gavin Newsom, the governor out there, said this: California is what happens when rights are respected, when work is rewarded, when nature is protected, when diversity is celebrated, and free markets are free markets. We are nothing less than the progressive answer to a transgressive president.
That's silly.